reserved it for you. Good morning.
What's up?
Good morning.
How are you?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just here just
Hanging out. Hanging out.
Good? Okay. I hope you all got my messages.
Apparently they did.
It's early still.
That's real cute. I meant to, yeah.
Hope you got my
5 minutes early. It's like an eternity. I'm sitting at my desk.
What a breakfast?
For a small fee.
Morning. We don't have a meeting Friday.
Yeah, I requested they do that, so we could work on it. I think it's good. Make it only applicable to plain district eight.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Thank you.
See you back.
Yeah, when you feed offended.
Over and over.
I think it's good. I talked to 3 people who fix yesterday. So I think we'll hopefully start next year. I'll talk to him. I think he's going to he needs the help of the buildings.
That's right, that's right.
Just don't make me go chase your road.
It shouldn't be under this one, Joe, a little controversial.
Yeah, because
It should be a piece of cake.
I do have an issue with the chafing wheel on the recreational. They just conform.
Well, I think what we're gonna do is just try to get, make kids go to the house first, which will put them in conflict, we're going to conference. Okay, that's it, you, okay.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
You have a quorum, but I need a senator.
You need me to send, don't just have to Senator Chafin?
Who?
To Chafin?
Ms. Chafin, are you
Chapin
connected?
and Sturtevant.
Okay.
We asked him to come in.
We're waiting on one of them.
And the other one's the same as mine.
Does anyone have, any of the committee members have, we can have a meeting? Another
It's
Sunday?
starting now.
Okay, wait, you can come and go, you can choose it. How about 8:30? Anybody have an 8:30 meeting?
No.
It's your morning.
It is.
And I'll let the chairman know.
Okay, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, sir. Mhm.
Notifications went out to both senators.
Mr. Chairman, I just talked to Senator Sturtevant and he's gonna be here in 2 minutes.
Yes.
And I'm getting
We'll
called.
just, wait to start until one of them gets here.
I'm getting called. There's only one thing on the agenda. And I stand there and I'll be back.
We still have a quorum.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, we knew we had.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we just
Almost.
started.
That was as close as it gets this morning.
Now we definitely have.
Try to give everybody a half an hour break. Mr. Jason,
It's just now 8 o'clock. On time. Did I barely make it? Everybody's on time.
don't get very comfortable.
Thank you. It's good to be timely.
County Cities and Towns Subcommittee number 1 is now, in order. Senator Chapin, you have, a couple of bills.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do. Any preference in the order? Do you have any preference in the order?
The lowest number first is easier for us, but
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
Senate Bill 371. This is a bill that came at the request of one of my localities, Tazewell County. Currently under the law, localities only have protection from civil liability for ATV trails, like those that are operated through the Spearhead Trail System. This legislation would broaden the scope to other activities such as hiking, biking, and water activities. So there's a new park in Virginia that has been funded, and property is being purchased as we speak. And that park is going to be called the Clinch River State Park, and it's the first of its type in Virginia. It's a linear river park that will travel miles with the river, and we envision hiking trails and biking trails along the river, and the landowners that would be asked to participate would of course want to not have liability, and
Oh, very much so.
that's the purpose of
That's
that
it.
bill.
Questions from committee members? Senator, we have a very similar bill from Delegate Moorfield, and it's a little different. Our normal procedure would be to substitute his bill for your bill, and make, the bills would end up different, and then they would go to conference and try to work things out. Do you have any real objection to that? That's what we would normally do.
I have no objection to the bill going in conference.
And I would entertain a motion to conform this bill to Delegate Moorfield's bill.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second to conform the bill. Those in favor of the motion, aye. We'll vote.
Is this
Pardon?
It'll be a substitute.
substitute?
It'll be a substitute, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, those in favor of the motion, aye. Okay, we'll conform the bill 7-0. If I can help work it out, I'm one willing to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill that I have is Senate Bill 448. This is a bill that we call the Abandoned School Bill, and it simply, we have a lot of schools in and around my district that, because of school consolidations that have been ongoing, some loss of population, we have a lot of fairly good school properties that can be used for other purposes. So this bill has a view to establish revitalization zones, offering local incentives and reduced permitting fees, user fees, offering reduction in the sale of property, et cetera, to incentivize businesses to locate in our localities. When I was in, the bill had to go to Senate Finance. Why, I don't know, but it got there. And when I was there, a policy was discussed about making it statewide. There was a feeling of that committee that it was a good statewide policy, and that amendment was made to the bill at that committee.
Is that amendment in the bill that we have before us? I think it is.
That's the bill that's before you now, yes.
In the bill.
Is
Now, don't we have a House bill that is for the whole field region only?
That would be my bill, Mr. Chairman.
Couldn't hear you.
That's the same as my bill, Mr. Chairman, House Bill 1179.
Okay, so if we pass this bill out, we'll have equal bills on both sides and should move forward. Okay, very good. Anyone in the audience need to care to speak to the bill? Any further questions from the committee? Not, I'll entertain. a
Move to
motion.
report. You've got one person.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kristen Dahlman with the Department of Housing and Community Development on behalf of the administration, and we support the bill because we believe that it provides a tool to localities to revitalize and provide incentives for abandoned schools.
Good, thank you for your testimony, and I agree, there are other areas, not just in the coal field, that have some abandoned schools. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
That's acceptable on this.
Okay,
carries 7-0. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Now let's start.
Morning. Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 750. It is a bill, a charter change bill regarding the City of Richmond's charter. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if you, like Delegate McGuire is in the Richmond area, or I know many of you spend a fair amount of time outside of session down here in Richmond, you probably know just from reading the newspaper or watching the news that our city schools, our infrastructure, our buildings are very much outdated and crumbling and dangerous and unsafe and unhealthy in many cases, not in every case, but in many, many cases. There have been reports of ceiling tiles falling on kids during class and teachers having to wear surgical masks during school because of mold and other things in the air. We've had kids who have been burned on exposed hot water pipes. So there's a real challenge and a lot of reasons for that, which I don't think is necessary to get into at this stage. But be that as it may, we've got a lot of school buildings in the city that need a lot of help, and it's been a challenge for decades and decades. And so this past November, there was a referendum on the ballot in the city of Richmond for this charter change, exactly as it is presented to the subcommittee today, which is pretty simple. It requires the mayor of Richmond to present a fully funded school modernization plan to the Richmond City Council within 6 months of passage. And as part of that, and this was part of the referendum, that fully funded school modernization plan cannot include tax increases to pay for it, future tax increases to pay for it. And if that is not possible, if the mayor and the administration find that is not possible to develop a fully funded plan to modernize the schools, then the referendum and the charter change would simply have the mayor tell city council that it's not possible to do it without a tax increase. And that really is the crux of the bill. I'll tell you, there was a lot of public citizen support and effort that went into getting this referendum on the ballot. There is a 60 or 70-year-old organization in Richmond called the Richmond Crusade for Voters, which has been an organization that has done a lot of really good work on civil rights in Richmond and around Virginia over many, many decades. And they were one of the key organizations that had folks out to get the thousands of signatures that were required to get this referendum on the ballot. So it was no easy task to be done. It was something that was very much a grassroots effort, and it was in large part supported and led by Delegate Lupasi, who is here. I know who would like to speak on it, but I know as a former colleague in the House, he has always been a strong leader on working to help Richmond City schools, and this was a bill that I was going to carry with him, but with him in the lead role on it, because this is very, very important to him, I know. And if it would be the pleasure of the committee, this is something that passed by a large margin in the city of Richmond in November. 85% of Richmond City voters supported this, so it's got very much broad-based support from all across the city, because it is such an important and vital thing for Richmond.
Very good.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
No, very good.
Senator, I spent a lot of years on city council where I'm from prior to coming up here, and I'm keenly aware of, the sort of the division between church and state, if you will, between local government and state government. And I guess my question for you is this: if the citizens of Richmond have voted overwhelmingly to require this, and the mayor is not responding such that you're asking the assembly to take action, I mean, to put it bluntly, aren't you asking us to step into the role of the city council and forcing the mayor to do something he apparently doesn't want to do? In other words, aren't we kind of overstepping our role and putting ourselves in the shoes of a city council that we're really not elected to do?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Heretic, I think that my answer to that would be is this is the voice of the overwhelming majority of Richmond voters who are asking the mayor and the city administration to do that. And they're asking through a referendum to do it via a charter change. And the only way to do that is through the General Assembly. And so I think it is fair and accurate to look at this as we're simply the vehicle by which Virginia law requires that these charter changes be amended. This would go into the Richmond Charter in the budget charter section where it relates to having a balanced budget and other things. And so this would be another provision that is akin to what is already there in many respects. And so I think this is not the General Assembly stepping in. I think it's very different from that. I think it is, myself as their representative adhering to their intent and their request via the referendum, and this is the method by which they've asked to do it, and that they are able to do it through a charter change, is through the General Assembly.
Yep, okay, very good. That's an excellent point. The only way to make these through the charter change. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
I'll just tell you, I do a lot of volunteer work with inner city kids, and I've been to schools in this local area, and some toilet seats, exposed asbestos. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, how can you learn in a place that's not safe? So I'm in support.
Mr. Chairman, speaking to Bill.
Yes, sir.
Frankly, I think that we've done a few out-of-box things this session with some of the issues for areas that are economically depressed. And I think while this isn't really out of the box, because we're really just allowing them to do the charter change to do the wishes of the voters, I do think that given the long history of failures to do things at the schools in Richmond, that this is a necessary step. And,
Thank you for your
and I'm
comment.
in support of this.
Very well. I'll now hear testimony from the audience. We'll start with those that are in favor of the bill. Speaking for the bill. Any order?
Good morning, my name is Bill LaFoon. I'm a resident of Richmond. I'm one of 16,000 people that circulated and signed a petition, and I'm one of 84% of the voters that voted for this charter change. And I hope you listen to what people in Richmond have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming up.
Go ahead.
Mr. Gold.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes, sir.
Goldman. I'd like to address,
Identify yourself first, please, for the committee members.
The,
Excuse me?
Identify yourself
Oh,
first for the committee members.
yes, Paul Goldman, I used to be chairman of the Democratic Party of Virginia, and this is a bipartisan effort. Has been from the beginning. 99% of African Americans voted for this, 85% of the city. The background, I think, will clear it up. In 1955, Supreme Court ruled inferior schools had to be fixed up, physical plant. City promised to do it. 63 years later, we have the oldest, most unhealthy, most decrepit schools in the state. Nobody disagrees with that. City charter was changed by the General Assembly. It allowed citizens to do exactly what we did. Go out, immense effort. If it passed, it comes to the General Assembly as if recommended by the City Council. That is the law that you all passed. You've agreed to change the city charter. They want a city auditor, I think, is what they want. That's what the General Assembly wants. 2004, we had a referendum. That's why we had elected mayor. I led that fight. You had to approve that. So the fact that we've come here and had to change the charter this way is not new. You've all given the people the right. So now to tell the people, after they went through the effort, well, maybe we can't do it. We passed the Constitution of the United States and Virginia by referendum. We passed bond issues by referendum. We change everything by referendum. It's unusual, but occasionally, when you have a situation where the public, now, this doesn't require the mayor to do anything. The mayor did oppose this, but he hasn't said anything since. This says, as of January 1st, the laws existing at the time, you have to have a fully funded plan without taxes. I already have one. It can be done easily. I put it on Facebook, which you gotta be willing to cut some stuff. So, bottom line, the General Assembly in its wisdom gave the public an opportunity to do this if they couldn't get anything. 99% of African Americans, schools are 90% non-white, said, please, just make them try. It doesn't seem to me to be all that difficult in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there others in favor? Delegate Posse?
I'm not gonna prolong the committee's time very much. Good to see everybody. Been a city resident. I'm an Ole Lupasi, and I'm a resident of the city of Richmond. And I've been so for my adult life. I was on the city council for 7 years. I was the first president of Richmond City Council under a new form of government. So I'm very well aware of how local government works, and in fact, I helped write the charter that we currently have and brought it to the General Assembly, the changes that we made, as did Paul Coleman. This particular issue is extremely important to the citizens of the city of Richmond. The area that I previously represented, that's now represented by Delegate Adams, is some of the areas are fairly affluent. I was at a cocktail party back probably in September. We talked about this, probably 10 of us just hanging out. Not one of the people there had a kid in the Richmond Public Schools. We all live in the city. Collegiate, St. Christopher, St. Catherine's, Trinity, Stewart. We send all our kids to those schools, okay? We talked about this issue for 2.5 hours and didn't talk about anything else, okay? Because people care about the conditions that people have to go to be in their schools. And the conditions that these children, these poor children that live in areas that we don't visit very often, the condition of those schools is so horrific that teachers, and they've reported this in the Times-Dispatch, teachers have to wear masks to teach these children. It's horrible. No human being should have to learn in such a way. And so this thing has been going on. It's not this mayor's fault necessarily. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. Okay? He was in junior high school. He was a freshman in college when I first served on city council. This thing goes back 40 years, 50 years, okay, and has been long neglected. But here's the kind of stuff that we have to see all the time if you live in the city of Richmond, okay? This was 2 days ago. They're spending $750,000 on the Redskins. $15 million. They buying $15 million for the richest franchise and the richest, one of the richest sports franchises in the world. But they've got kids where the ceilings are falling on their heads, and they got asbestos, and they got to wear masks. They got rodent. I've heard people tell when I was at a crusade meeting where the kids were all sitting like this in the gym, not in the gym, but in the main area where they were having some kind of presentation. And they had their feet, I can't do it because I'm on bad hips and stuff in these, but they had their feet up on the chairs, all of them. It's like, what are y'all doing? They got rats running through there. I got a friend of mine who does, I got a friend of mine who, who sort of helps as an aide, at one of the schools down in the East End. And the girl told her, don't put your purse on the floor because you might be carrying something out of here you don't want to be carrying. I mean, this is inhuman. And so this is the cry of the people. Basically, it's the cry of the people to say, please get these things fixed. Quit wasting the money on the Redskins. Quit wasting money on the glass houses down there in downtown. $80 million here, $60 million there, $20 million there, and get the daggone schools fixed, okay? And all you gotta do is try to do it without raising taxes. Maybe they'll find some savings in the budget. Maybe they'll take a real critical look. Maybe they can come up with 20 million, 30 million. And then if they need more, it doesn't say you can't raise taxes. You just say, look, I can't do it without raising taxes. I gotta raise taxes. But look in the budget first. That's all.
Thank you. Are there others to speak in favor of the bill? If not, those that are opposed to the bill? Is there a motion?
Second.
Have a motion, and second to report. We'll vote on electronic voting board. Senator.
Thank you very much,
Have a
Mr.
vote.
Chairman.
7 to 2, sir.
Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
That's all there is, Mr. Chair.
Well, committee members, I thank you for your cooperation and getting up early in the morning.